Do you feel Yugoslavian?
No.
Do you feel Yugoslavian?
No.
Why not?
Because I
Isn't
think
that all the Slav, all the Balkans together?
yeah. Well, I don't.
Yugoslav, Southern Slav.
I don't. One thing.
Yugoslav.
One thing that Yugoslavia tried to do, I think, it was kind of a positive idea, a good idea. I mean, it came from a good place. I think was to get rid of like sort of the harmful nationalism from World War II and before, and they tried to. Yeah, they tried. Yes, they tried to remove that by saying basically you're not a Serb, a Croat, a Bosniak, a Slovene anymore. You're a Yugoslav, and that's fine. Except you're taking away something that's very culturally ingrained, and that came out violently in the 90s. I think it would have been a better solution to let everybody keep their own identities and say, look, you're a Serb, you're a Croat, but we're still working together as allies, as in a federation or whatever. Would have been no problem at all.
So that didn't happen under the banner of we're all Slavs or Southern Slavs, as you say.
For some reason, people weren't happy with the way things had gone, and I mean, if they were, they probably wouldn't have started fighting each other. You know.
The thing I question about it is Albanians, Kosovo Albanians, are not Slavic, are they?
No, they're Illyrian.
They're who?
Illyrian.
Illyrian, okay. So it was a bit unfair to call the country Yugoslavia if they're not Slavic.
You mean Albania? Right. Oh, so the country Albania, or you mean
Well, Albania was part of Yugoslavia, right?
No, it's a separate country.
You can give Montenegro. Montenegro was as far
Albania
east.
was a separate country. Yeah.
It was always a separate country. It was never part of Yugoslavia. Okay, but Kosovo was.
Yeah, Kosovo was. Yeah.
And the majority of people living in Kosovo were ethnic Albanians, and they were.
Yeah, they were in the past half century, maybe. But before that, I mean, I don't know. There was a time when it was mixed. Sometime also majority Serb, I think, ethnic, something.
That's for me, sir. Thank you very much.
It's been switching up quite a lot to the Balkans.
Let me check something, bro. Are these aren't active, are they? Okay, cool.
No, don't worry about
They'll be picking up all the sound of the ground.
Yeah.
I can't believe I was that bad on history. I thought Albania was part of what was Yugoslavia, but it was Kosovo was part of it.
It had its own heavy dictatorship.
The thing with Kosovo nowadays is that indeed there's the majority of the population of Kosovo is ethnic Albanian,
and that's only recent.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's been like that for quite a while now. But I mean, it's basically what they probably said. Like about certain parts of Ukraine, like okay, there's this part of Ukraine is a majority ethnic Russian, so it should now not be part of Ukraine anymore. It should be either separate or, with Russia.
Ethnically, there's not too much difference between Ukrainians and Russians.
I trust. I mean,
not that different.
I think there's very little ethnic.
In terms of culture, they are different. In terms of language, they're different. In terms of mentality, they're different.
Russia and
Ukraine.
Yeah. But what do you mean in eastern Ukraine?
Yeah. So, for example, what happened recently in Kosovo, it got its independence because the majority of the people living in the region of Kosovo in the country now they're ethnically Albanians and not ethnically Serbs, so they split from Serbia. I think more than 90% of the population in Kosovo is ethnic Albanian, and that was the reason why they said, we don't want to be part of Serbia anymore.
And created a country overnight without permission from the international community.
I think most of the international communities they recognize them. Just obviously Serbia and the classical, the Russia. I think China also didn't, and a few other countries.
Russia, China,
the majority.
Two of the largest countries in the world.
Yeah. And
certainly population in China, that's a quarter of the world.
Yeah,
in terms of population.
Can we just announce a country like that? There you go, there's a new country. And there's a new one every night in that part of the world.
It depends.
Serbia became Serbia, Montenegro, Croatia split from Yugoslavia. Albania was already separate, as you said. Someone said to me, and I'd like your opinion on this, the conflict between the Bosniaks and the Serbs is a bunch of people of the same race, speaking the same language, in the same region, fighting over a religion that they don't even practice.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Yeah.
I told you last time, brothers fight each other more often than not.
Practically, that's what it comes down to. But I think
because what makes you a Bosnian or a Bosniak?
Bosniak. Well, my historical ties to the region and my cultural ties to Bosnia.
Where does religion come into that?
Did I say religion?
No, but I'm bringing it up.
Oh, right.
Because people argue that Croats are just Catholic Serbs.
Yeah.
Bosnians are just Muslim Serbs.
Yeah, that's what Serbs
argue. The original
argue.
Serbs are Orthodox Christians.
Yeah, that's what Serbs argue.
Okay, that's the Serbia. Okay.
Croats argue exactly the opposite. So
Serbia is Orthodox.
There's a guy called Slobodan.
What?
Serbia is Orthodox.
They're Orthodox, yeah. But I mean, Croats say that Serbs like Orthodox Croats. So it's
Which one is Catholic?
Croats.
Croatia.
Yes.
Croats, yeah. And the Bosniaks are by and large are Muslim, and tied to the region of Bosnia.
So who are Muslims? Bosnians and Albanians.
Yeah,
more or less.
More or less.
That's it.
But what
That's it.
sets a Bosniak or a Bosnian apart is his religion, right?
No. Well, it
His
happens.
language is the same.
Yeah, what's the big difference of culture? Is there a big
Culture is very.
disparity?
No, we have the same type of music, the same types of food, and all that. The language is pretty much. It's a different kind of accent, I would say. A few words are different, but we can understand each other perfectly. No, I mean, what makes a Bosnian or Bosniak is Bosnia.
Is what?
Bosnia.
Yeah. I don't want to insult your nationality or
You're not.
identity.
Don't worry. You can say whatever you want with me. I'm a heavy individualist. So no worries.
Okay.
I get your back anyway.
I'm a warrior. I can handle this. But anyway, no. It's Bosnia. So
deeper now.
Let's do it.
Well,
Do you know the way of the warrior?
I do think I have an idea of what it might be, but I don't know if I fully know it yet. I'm trying to learn it. Anyway, so it's Bosnia, and what was I going to say? The Bosnians are tied to the region. It's happened. It is now, I think, more or less a coincidence that most of them are Muslim. Before they weren't. You go back like 100 years, World War I.
Well,
Before.
this is what another Serbian guy said to me. He said if you ask a Bosnian what his grandfather's name was, he's going to say Slobodan or something
It's not
Serbian
true, man.
tribe.
It's not true.
Okay.
There's going to be some of them, obviously, but
The argument being that your ancestors were Christians who were converted by the Ottoman Empire.
I know that.
Yeah,
By the
exactly.
sword.
Exactly. That's
And
what I
who
wanted
made
to
them
say. Did
Christian?
they not convert during the
Well,
Ottoman
but-
someone
Empire?
with
ask
another sword.
right.
500 years before.
Right.
No, very
No, but let me ask you this.
Go on, and then we'll come to the relevance.
You should ask him, was there a Bosnian state before the Ottomans?
Was there?
Was there?
It sounds like there was.
There fucking was.
Okay.
And it's older than, I think, 80% of the countries of modern Europe.
Well,
There was a Bosnian state and a Bosnian identity before the Ottomans, and they were Christians. Nobody's denying that. It's like always when I get into these kinds of arguments, it's like, well, you're just converted from Christian. Well, nobody's saying that my ancestor didn't.
that's really
Was they Catholic or
What made them not a pagan?
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a
were
fruitless
they
argument.
Catholic or Orthodox?
They were mixed. Bosnia was always mixed. You had a very big I think the majority at the start were Catholic, and then you had minority of
Oh,
heretics.
you were Croats then? Sorry, not Serbian.
Exactly. That's the argument
Okay,
you get.
you
That's
were
the
Croats.
argument. Yeah, that's the argument you had. The Croats say you're Catholic, so you were Croats, and Serbs say you were Serb. Guys, come on.
Well, that's what I'm looking for, the definition. And
Yeah.
we have similar conversations with the
Yeah,
Israel
yeah.
supporters who say, oh, there's no such thing as Palestine. Show me Palestine on the map before 1917 or whatever. But it doesn't matter what you call a region. The people who are from there have the right to live there. Their identity will have changed over the years. They will have been various religions, but the people from a place have a right
Yeah,
to live
yeah,
there.
I agree. No, of course they have the right, and I mean, but that's I mean, what you just mentioned, like, so they were Catholic. Oh, so you're Croats. Well, it's not really. That's not the point. Like, we're Bosniaks, right? We were Bosnians before the Ottomans. At some point,
It's always been a distinct.
here's an interesting proposition as well. The Ottomans, they didn't just conquer Bosnia. They conquered Serbia, Greece, Bulgaria, Romania. At one point they got up to Vienna. They didn't hold it though. They retreated after the defeat, right?
They had 2 defeats at Vienna.
Yes. So why did only the Bosnians, by majority, and okay, let's say Albanians, but let's focus on Bosnia, convert to Islam? What was so different about Bosnians? Was it that?
Interesting.
Was there maybe some cultural aspect to them that uniquely identified them as a separate people that they, by and large, converted and stayed Muslim?
Appealed to them.
That's our argument. Like, why is Serbia majority Orthodox?
What about the Albanians?
Do you know Skanderberg?
That's the Albanian general.
Yes.
I've heard of him.
He's an Albanian general. He was raised by the Turks in their court.
Janissary.
Just like not like a Janissary, but he was like Vlad the Impaler, raised in the Ottoman court.
Oh, right,
He won many victories against the Ottomans, and he fought against them. But I do know about some of the battles he had and some of the history of the region with Skanderberg. By the way, it means in Turkish Lord Alexander. They called him Lord Alexander. Skanderberg.
As in Alexander the Great.
Yeah, because he was a very good general. He was very proficient in strategy and tactics.
In the Ottoman, are we talking?
No, he's Albanian. He was an Albanian guy. He fought many wars against the Ottomans, and in the end, I think he lost. Basically, like Vlad the Impaler, he also fought many battles against the Ottomans. He won many of them, but then eventually, he lost. And also Stefan, who was from Moldavia. He had a Moldavian kingdom. Those 3 guys are the ones that jump to my mind when I think of the Ottoman Empire and the resistance to the Ottoman Empire in southeastern Europe. But about Bosnia, did they resist the Ottomans, or did they prefer to join the Ottomans?
What I know from my knowledge of history is that there was a big battle in Kosovo, and that's also the reason why Kosovo is so important for the Serbs as a cultural, historical thing, and why it's so painful for them to let it go they don't accept its independence. Now it's majority Albanians. But there was a battle in, I think, 1389 between the Serbian armies and the invading Ottomans, and the Serbian armies lost the battle. But it's a very important kind of date in their cultural history.
I think I saw that battle somewhere, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's very important for them. In that battle, there were a number of battalions sent from the Bosnian king to fight alongside the Serbs. So the Bosnians very, very much opposed the Ottomans. Only that I think there was a period of about 40, 50 years between the moment that Serbia was conquered and the moment that Bosnia was eventually conquered completely.
In that battle, some of the Serbian knights got isolated and they tried charging the Sultan, but they didn't manage to.
Probably not. I don't know. Like I don't know the details.
But anyway, sorry.
So did the Bosnians militarily oppose them? Yes, they did. I think something else happened though. But that's our position, maybe my position on it. The Bosnians were known for 2 things back in the Middle Ages. Bosnia, let's see, it was always mixed. Catholics and Orthodox people lived within the confines of the kingdom, and they were welcome to live there. And there were certain heretical sects that weren't welcome in other parts of Europe. That also lived in Bosnia.
And are these the sects that might have converted to Islam, or been similar in doctrine to Islam?
Some of them might have converted. Okay. Yeah, I know. For example, from my family history, my grandma on my father's side, she comes from a family, and they have a book, and that family. That's the legend, right? I don't know if it's true, but they descend from 3 Spanish brothers that fled the Inquisition after the Christians retook Spain.
After the Reconquista.
Yeah.
So Muslim Spaniards.
Right, or Jewish.
Or Jewish, yes.
So they were welcomed in Bosnia.
Great.
So in other places in Europe, where Catholics were performing crusades, Hungary tried to crusade Bosnia twice.
Right.
They lost twice. Orthodox, like Byzantium, they also tried to do the same. Bosnia was kind of a haven of.
Wait. Byzantium never did any crusades.
Okay.
They were.
Or maybe an invasion.
An invasion or some political.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Interesting. But I have heard that. So you mentioned Janissaries.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I've heard that
Forceful conversion
of boys taken from their families.
That happened all over. Happened all over the Balkans.
Okay.
Right.
And making them Muslim and then fight against their own family.
It's definitely not unheard of. The same thing happened in the Roman Empire.
It probably happens worldwide. I'm not singling it out.
It wasn't exactly like that. The Romans didn't, they didn't take slaves and let the slaves become warriors. They never did that.
Okay.
The Romans allowed the conquered regions to provide a certain amount of troops, but that was basically
you can still use their own men to kill their own men.
But look, that's not the same. When you
I didn't say it was the same, man. I'm just making a comparison.
No, but it's different.
Parallel.
It's very different because the way of doing it is different. The way Janissaries were raised is similar to the Mamelukes or the Ghulams in some other Islamic empires, and it was different most of history about how people would raise the enemy's troops. Some people were more ruthless, like the Mongols. They would just sometimes take prisoners and put them in front of their troops to absorb, to not allow them to charge, to not allow the enemy cavalry to charge them.
All right.
And some of them would just.
I want to talk about on that subject the zeal of the convert and the seeds of animosity sowed between the communities because of this forced conversion. Did those Bosniaks generations later have a fervent hatred of the Christians because they knew deep down that's who we were?
Our greatest cultural hero is a guy that was taken. He was half Turkish, half Bosnian.
Okay.
He was taken to Istanbul to be trained to be a Janissary general, to fight for the Ottomans, and eventually, after a career, he came back and he raised up in rebellion against the Ottomans because he identified strongly with the Bosnian nation.
What's his name?
His name is Hussein Radashchevich. He was a captain of Bosnia.
So his nationality preceded his religion.
Yes, Bosnia was in front of it. It wasn't. I mean, Bosnians of Christian faith, of Muslim faith, of all faiths, they were always problematic for the Ottomans. It was also for the longest time the only region that kind of remained politically semi-autonomous within the Balkans.
It wasn't the case that we're loyal to the Ottoman Empire because we're Muslims.
I'm sure there were some that were. He lost because he was eventually betrayed by another kind of Bosnian that chose the Ottoman side.
Okay.
He was betrayed by some cousin or something.
Fuck.
So, and but there was uprisings of Christians like 50 years later, and there's uprisings all the time. So my whole point is, like, when it comes to Bosnia, I don't understand because I have nothing against anybody, any other like identity, nationality, culture.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, people should be able to identify with what they want to identify with, because that's what makes you. That's what you think is important. That's fine. But I mean, just respect mine. I've had these conversations with Croat nationalists, Serb nationalists. Like, why do you care? Like, if I look at America, they all come from somewhere. They still bombed Yugoslavia in the 90s. Well, you're going to tell them they're a fake nation? Does it matter? I mean, I can start a new nation tomorrow.
Right. It's only the idea of nations is that a country exists if other countries believe it exists.
Exactly.
It's something we make up.
That's right.
We imagine it.
Yeah, absolutely. And
doesn't mean it does not
bring it back to the Israel-Palestine argument and Palestine not existing before the 20th century. But nor did Syria, nor did Iraq, nor did all these countries.
Right.
Bosnia. Although the Bosnian identity and kingdom did, the modern nation state is a modern creation. But the people and the culture, the things that you can't define on a map, that are not as tangible, have always been existed and manifested in different forms.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, that's the Balkans done.
That's the first one.